This is History Myths and Myth Conceptions. And today's myth is gladiators fought to death. Gladiatorial combat is one of the most misunderstood topics in the history of ancient Rome. For centuries, it was interpreted as a total bloodbath, with literature and films producing incredibly inaccurate images of this Roman sport. When you have hundreds, thousands of very odd and one-sided depictions of gladiators, and if they stack upon each other for a very long period of time, the result is a horrifyingly deformed perception of what it really was. When Europeans started rediscovering history, they had no understanding of professional sports and how it works. Obviously, it didn't help interpretations. What else didn't help was the fact that the scholars were usually quite Christian. So they brought their weird ideas of persecution of Christians by Roman authorities, a big thing in Christian propaganda. Flavian Amphitheater, popularly known as the Colosseum, was not only a mysterious stadium of largely unknown purpose, it was also a stone quarry where you can get resources for construction of buildings at the Vatican, and also basically a church dedicated to Christian martyrs, who presumably died in the arena. There is a cross in the middle of the Colosseum right now as we speak. So first of all, we must remember that gladiatorial combat was a professional sport, and it was operated as a business. We understand it now. Almost nobody understood it 100 years ago. And that is why we have stories of gladiators killing each other by dozens, even when the existing data implies a different picture. A picture where you can't kill Michael Jordan, Lionel Messi, Mike Tyson, or Conor McGregor after an unsuccessful match. It is not only cruel, it's counterproductive. Everyone's losing money. The origins of Roman games, they were called Munera, lie in the Greek states, and it was the funeral games, and officially it remained the funeral games ever since. A wealthy patron of the games usually organized it in honor of one of his recently deceased family members. The games included a variety of performances, and gladiatorial combat was basically a culmination. For example, the games almost always included battles with the wild beasts. Some of the wild beasts were actually trained, and the existing historical sources actually talk about beasts much more than about the human contestants. Also, the shows probably included, at least in the early period, some kind of public executions. Later, prisoners of war and criminals were sent mostly to the mines. It is a more productive approach. Around the time of the late Republic, and possibly much earlier, gladiatorial combat evolved into a professional discipline. The intentional killing of the opponent was absolutely forbidden by the time of Augustus. The combat was strictly regulated and business-driven. Later periods also included interesting pieces of legislation on combat. For example, Marcus Aurelius introduced a law that explicitly prohibited the use of sharp weapons in the arena. The combat could be traumatic, so they tried to minimize the possible damage. His successor, the infamous Emperor Commodus, fought in the arena himself, and he used a wooden sword. The historian Cassius Dio tries to emphasize the depravity and cruelness of this particular emperor, so he mentions that during the private combat, he actually used real weapons and even killed people, something that you absolutely cannot do in public during the official games. The fighters were trained in the gladiator schools, called ludi, plural of ludus. Roman aristocrats invested in these schools since it was a profitable establishment. As far as we know, it operated kinda like this. The ludi trained the gladiators, who could be both slaves or free people under the contract. And it took time. In some cases, probably years. Then the ludus could rent out their swordsmen to the events. And that's how they made money. The price apparently could be very different depending on the popularity of the particular fighter. and some of the gladiators were real stars. The Institutions of Gaius, a digest of legal practices for the students of law, even mentions some of the precedents and problems associated with gladiators. And there is a basic example of the contract, which includes the price for rent and a separate price which must be paid if the gladiator will be seriously injured or, worst of all, killed. And this price is 50 times higher. A dead or a wounded gladiator was a financial disaster. So naturally, gladiatorial combat was largely staged and scripted, and it seems that the closest modern counterpart of gladiators are professional wrestlers. Of course, there are significant risks for your health, even in wrestling, there's no doubt about it, but it's not like they are just butchering each other.